Hello, good day, everyone. My name is Ken Nimmer, and I am an associate bank HSA consultant, and I'm here to talk about HSAs. And so let's jump into the agenda. First off, what we're going to do is talk about why HSAs, why they should be considered as part of an overall financial strategy. Oftentimes, people look at the item as something that just cover the deductible. And HSAs are much more flexible than that. They are something that you can build into your overall retirement strategy, as it is the only vehicle that's completely tax-free when you use it on qualified medical expenses for one of the top expenses in retirement. And so we'll touch on why HSAs make sense both in the short term and the long run. Then we'll touch on different tools and resources that you have available to you, and then we'll go into investing inside your HSA, and then investing or the returns on those investments do remain tax-free when you continue to spend that on qualified medical expenses. And then finally, we'll jump into next steps. And so here's oftentimes where I ask you, does do you view the HSA as a long-term savings vehicle or not? And I usually see about only 10 to 20% of the people believe that the product can indeed take care of you long term into retirement. And what we're going to do today is show why that's not the case. And so my goal is to really understand the value of the HSA long term. So we're going to go through the top 5 aspects of the HSA. First off, HSAs are not the same as FSAs. FSAs are flexible spending accounts, but there's actually nothing really flexible about them. They're much more rigid in nature. If you don't spend it, you lose it, and you don't have the multiple options that you can spend the dollars later in life or for different safety net scenarios. And we'll touch on that as we go throughout the presentation. Number 2, HSAs are arguably the most tax-friendly vehicle on the planet, or at least in the US. If you look at from an individual savings perspective, it's the only savings tool that remains completely tax-free when you spend it on qualified medical expenses. Number 3, HSAs are arguably one of the best retirement tools out there because it is the only thing that's tax-free when you spend it on one of the top expenses in retirement. And there's the one thing to keep in mind is that after the age of 65 with the HSA, you can spend those dollars on anything else. And then it just becomes taxable income at that point, which is no different than any other retirement account. So if you continue spending on qualified medical expenses, stays tax-free. If you decide to spend it on other things, it becomes taxable income after the age of 65. If you do pull it out before 65, there is a 20% penalty in addition to the tax consequence. So that's something you want to try to avoid if you need to, but there are the scenarios where it can come out early should you lose your job, etc. So there are those scenarios. Number 4, HSAs avoid the FICA tax at 7.65%. That's a payroll tax. Both the employer pays 7.65, the employee pays 7.65, and so when you look at that tax savings, the historical return of the stock market is right around that percentage. So the way to almost look at that is in comparison to other retirement vehicles that do not avoid the FICA tax, you're seeing an immediate 7.65% return in comparison to other long-term retirement savings tools. And then number 5, finally, you can invest inside the HSA. That's one of the strong reasons to work with Associated Bank to grow those funds into the future. So we're going to go through what your deductible is and just day one savings or first of that year savings when you're spending those dollars to cover that deductible on your health plan. And so we did grab your deductible. It's $1,800 for the individual plan. It's $3,600 for the family plan. And for this the purposes of this exercise, we're going to assume just a 20% tax rate, which there's no such thing as 20% federal tax rate. It's likely to be 22 or 24%. So this is a pretty conservative example. And it's just very, very simple math. I'm a simple guy myself, so I like to use these simple examples. And the $1,800 deductible, you're saving $360, assuming 20% tax rate. And then on the $3,600 family deductible, you would be saving $720. So substantial savings, and the real world deductible is much less than what's advertised once you look at the tax savings of the HSA to cover that deductible. But we're going to talk about saving money into the future. And this, I've been hitting this point home pretty hard. And there was one of our competitors looked at a study, and what they did is they looked at two people, so a couple, from age 65 until death and retirement. And you typically spend about 18, 19 years in retirement years once when you hit 65. And what they found was that two people over that time frame would spend about $315,000 in healthcare costs out of pocket during that time frame. And if you talk to your loved ones, your family members, friends, those healthcare expenses because of nursing home costs, hospital costs, assisted living, all those type of things are healthcare costs that can really drive up those expenditures later in life. And when you do the math breakdown on this particular dollar amount, it ends up just being over $500 per month per person that you end up spending on healthcare, which is again one of the top expenses in retirement. And the question I always like to ask here is if the dollars aren't in your HSA to cover these from, and all those other sources are after tax sources. So whether it's tax items. And so when you look at the savings that you have out of this 315,000, if the money's in your HSA, it's tens of thousands of dollars. So substantial savings by putting money into your HSA to cover those expenses later in life. So why is HSA so valuable? It's triple tax advantage. And it's all over the internet like that. If you search it, it'll say triple tax advantage, and that's because the money goes in tax-free, it grows tax-free, and then when it comes out tax-free. And it only makes sense to really build those dollars over time is if you can get a return on those dollars from an investment perspective. And just to drive that point home, if you look at retirement type of accounts, whether they're Roth or traditional accounts, the Roth type of account, you're getting taxed before the dollars go into that account. On a traditional account, you're getting taxed when the dollars get pulled out of the account. And the HSA, on the other hand, stays completely tax-free when you continue to spend that on qualified medical expenses. So what makes you eligible for the HSA? The HSA, you do have to be enrolled in a high deductible health care plan. The HDHP is what they call it, or some people refer to it as an HSA eligible health plan. And there are minimum amounts that the IRS puts out there that the deductible has to be. It's $1,650 for a single, $3,300 for family. And if you notice, your deductibles fall really close in line to that. I do oftentimes see higher deductibles, so this is a nice health plan that the city of Stevens Point has. The other thing you cannot have is any other first dollar coverage. So as soon as you start collecting Medicare at age 65, if you decide not to delay it, you have to stop contributing to your HSA. So it's really important to start younger because the limits aren't very high in comparison to some other retirement accounts. So you want to start, sooner than later, and build that up prior to hitting retirement age once you start collecting Medicare. You can also not have TRICARE, which is military benefits. That's the first dollar out. When it comes to VA benefits, if you visit the VA for services, you have to delay contributions for 60 days. And then finally, you cannot have an FSA as a first dollar out coverage. You can have a limited purpose FSA for vision and dental, but you cannot have a full medical FSA. And the last thing that would prohibit you from opening an HSA account is being a dependent on someone else's tax return. That would prohibit you from opening an HSA account as well. So who owns the HSA? The HSA accounts are individually owned accounts. There's no such thing as a joint account like there is with joint checking and savings. And with that said, you your distributions out to yourself, your wife, or your dependents are possible. So the accounts are individually owned, but the distributions can go to your spouse and your tax dependents without issue. If your spouse or dependents need an extra debit card, we do provide those at no additional charge, as is the primary card as well. So what happens in the event of a passing or a death? It happens to all of us someday. And this product, the HSA product, is no different than any other financial account where you can designate a beneficiary. So one of the first things I recommend when setting up your HSA account is to set up your beneficiaries. If you do choose your spouse as your beneficiary, it will go to the spouse completely tax-free. If you choose someone else other than a spouse, even if it's tax dependents or someone else, then it gets distributed as a check, and it's distributed as a taxable income to that particular individual. This is a big slide. So what are HSA qualified medical expenses? I divide the page up into two. The top half of the page is what you would expect from an HSA. Medical expenses covering your deductible, covering your spouse's expenses, your tax dependents, vision, dental, all those sorts of things. But if you look at the bottom half of the page, there's other good things that the money can be spent on. First off, it serves as a good safety net. So if you do happen to have the situation where you lose your job, you can use your HSA dollars to cover those healthcare premiums while receiving unemployment benefits. Fantastic safety net scenario. Should you choose to use COBRA coverage, which is what extends your employer's health coverage that you had before while employed up to 18 months beyond that termination date, you can use your HSA dollars on the COBRA coverage. The third thing on the list is you can use your HSA dollars on long-term care, and that's extremely expensive. And what I always like to say there is, can you imagine getting an example like the Kohl's 20% coupon on long-term care? That's really thousands and thousands of dollars. So that's some really nice savings there. You can also use your HSA dollars on Medicare premiums, parts B, C, and D. If we look at what Medicare comprises of, Part A is inpatient care, which is free. Part B is outpatient care, which has a charge to it. C is Advantage plans, so you can use it on that. What you cannot use it on are supplemental plans. So Advantage plans, yes, some supplemental plans, no. And finally, Part D is prescription drugs. And then the last one on the page, and this is a real big one, if once you hit 65, you can pull those dollars out of the HSA and spend it on anything else, but it does become taxable income at that point, and that's where you would get taxed, which is really no different than any other retirement account. But I always caution people, make sure that you tap that HSA later in life or last, because healthcare expenses only go up as you typically get older and they're unexpected. And so it's one of those tools that you want to have available should you need that later in life. So what are HSA qualified medical expenses? I'll keep it simple by saying that if the doctor prescribes it, it's covered. Okay, there's a list out there. It's called Section 213D that the IRS puts out. It's quite extensive, and I will go ahead and page through it, but I will hit on some of the things that are not qualified. And if you look at that list, the list is generally comprised of cosmetic and wellness type items. And unless the doctor prescribes it, again, if the doctor prescribes it, it's just covered. But if you look at it, weight loss, gym memberships, those type of things. I do wish that was covered because that can contribute to lower premiums, but unfortunately, it's not covered by the HSA. There is an easier place to go to see if something's eligible. It's called the HSA store. This is an Associated Bank portal. You can easily put the item in the search bar, hit enter, and it'll tell you if it's eligible for the HSA or not. The IRS puts together annual limits on what you're able to put into your HSA. It goes up every single year, so you do have to make that adjustment through HR if you do want to increase your HSA contributions to go into your account. For 2025, the individual limit contribution is $4,300, and then the family limit contribution, if you have the family health plan, is $8,550. Now, when the IRS looks at your total contribution, they don't care where the money comes from. They just look at that IRS limit. And the city of Stevens Point contributes through the wellness program $600 for a single plan and $1,200 for the family plan. And that has to be taken into account to that IRS limit from a contribution standpoint. So I put the numbers in green on what you as either an individual or family unit can contribute to your HSA outside of that wellness contribution. So on the individual plan, you can contribute an additional $3,700, taking into account that wellness contribution, and then the family plan, you can contribute an additional $7,350. One quick note on the contribution is if you're over 55, you're able to do an additional $1,000 catch-up contribution into your own individual HSA account. If you remember, I mentioned the accounts are individually owned. So I just want to give a quick example from an understanding standpoint. If one person is part of the family unit or one spouse was contributing up to the total family limit for the entire family, going up to the 8550, and let's say the other spouse turned 55, that spouse would have to open their own HSA account, contribute after-tax dollars because they can't do it through payroll because they wouldn't have a matching health plan, and then reconcile it with the taxes at the end of the year. So you would get the federal and state income tax write-off, but you would not get the FICA tax write-off at that point, unfortunately. So we're going to go through different tools and resources that you have available for your account. There are three of them. There's the online portal, the debit card, and the mobile app. So first, the portal. The portal is the site that you will receive when you first create your account. You receive an email welcoming you to the creation of your account. Once when you've went through that process, an account gets created a few hours later, you'll get the welcome email, you log in. I always recommend doing a couple things, going paperless, because there is a $4 per month paper statement fee to receive paper. So definitely go paperless so you can get those reports in the portal. I always recommend setting up your beneficiaries, as I mentioned earlier. And then I typically recommend setting up your bank account if you aren't using a debit card for reimbursement, because there are those situations where maybe you're going to go over that $5,000 limit on the debit card, and then you maybe want to grab the receipt, upload in the portal, and send the reimbursement back to your synced up bank account inside the portal. And it can be any bank account. It doesn't have to be an Associated Bank account. It can be a bank, credit union, or either checking or savings, whatever you want to sync up into the portal when you go to reimburse yourself. And that's done underneath the profile section. Or if you go to pay yourself and you do want to pay yourself, it'll say add bank information as a little note when looking to add that bank account. The second tool that you have available to you is the debit card. It's a no-charge debit card. You can order additional cards for your spouses or tax dependents. There's a $5,000 limit on the debit card, as I mentioned, a 15-item transaction limit at point of sale, for example, going through Walgreens or what have you, for that particular transaction. It is a smart debit card. So if you go to purchase a car with it, it will get declined. So it does recognize the merchant codes that are at point of sale on whether it's an authorized transaction or not. The last tool that's available to you is the mobile app. The mobile app is a very powerful day-to-day type tool. You can't start investments in there, but you can manage it going forward, and you can't put your beneficiaries in there, so you'd have to do that on the portal. But for the most part, other things you can do inside the mobile app to manage your HSA on a day-to-day type basis. A couple things that you can do in there independent of the portal is you can scan for eligible barcode or scan for eligible products for HSAs by using a barcode scanner in the mobile app. Or you can take snapshots of receipts and quickly and easily upload it to reimburse yourself for HSA transactions as well. Next topic we're going to go into is investing. So the investment option everyone has access to. To start investing, you have to have at least $500 in your cash account. But you can set that threshold at any dollar amounts. And I usually recommend setting that threshold at a dollar amount to cover your medical bills, whether it's 1,000 or 2,000, or whatever that is. Once when you set that threshold inside the portal, when you go to click Manage Investments and it walks you through the process, you can choose the investment products that you want to work with. And once you hit submit, it takes a couple days for the dollars over that threshold to flow over to the investments. And then you're investing. It is automatic two-way sweeps between the cash account and the investment account. So as a case in point, if I have $1,000 threshold and I swipe the card for a $500 bill, within a couple days, the $500 monies that left the account will be replenished from what's in the investment account on equal ratio basis across the stocks. So it's an automatic two-way process between the cash and the investment account. So it's very easy to manage the investment accounts inside the HSA. The default account that comes up is Dodge & Cox, which is a fairly conservative account. You won't get in a bunch of trouble there. But we have 23 different accounts to pick from. We have everything from money market accounts to fixed income bond accounts to equity accounts. And then we also have foreign accounts and risk level accounts. So low, medium, higher risk type accounts that you can pick from depending on what your risk tolerance is from an investment perspective. Remember, when you are investing, you are subject to the risk of the market, so you can definitely lose money in the market. This is no different than other type of stock investments that are inside of other retirement accounts. So from a perspective of, is there risk? Yes, there is risk in that. If you're seeking lower risk items, we also have a CD option that's not listed here. You have to call into our support team to get that CD option. It's currently a 3.5% interest rate with a $5,000 minimum spread over a 15-month period. So that's a nice solid option for a lot of people who are looking for lower risk for their HSA. If you do need assistance in picking out what you want to put aside in your HSA to help achieve your long-term goals, we do have something that's called the HSA Planner, and it will walk you through the process of determining what you might want to put into your HSA to achieve your goals. Our participant services team is a wonderful resource available to you. They're all licensed in the HSA product. They are there Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. To 7 p.m. This number listed here is the exactly same number that's listed on the back of your debit card. So you do have easy access to that. And they can help you out with any questions with the exception of giving financial advice. They are not they're not financial advisors, not financially licensed. And so those type of questions you'd have to take back to your financial advisor if you do need assistance in picking out different investment options. But otherwise, they can walk you through everything else and they can walk you through how to invest too, just not what to invest in. Next, we're going to touch on next steps. So Associated Bank is a new vendor to you from an HSA perspective, and it's because we have the technology components, the support teams, and the investment products to really grow those dollars over time to benefit you so that you can pay yourself first in achieving your long-term financial goals during your journey. So to accomplish that goal, you do need to create an online account. You do have to get that employer code from HR, and they will supply that code to you to create that HSA account from a website. Once you're in there, like I mentioned, you want to go paperless. That's one of the questions that come up early on. I suggest syncing up your bank account if you want to do reimbursement from the HSA to your checking or savings account. And then once you're set up, set up your beneficiaries. So you'd want to do that right away too. And then going forward, all deposits will be going into your Associated Bank account. If you're interested in transferring an existing account over to Associated Bank, we do have a transfer form for that. And you can get that from HR or from the portal itself and making that transfer. If it is an individual account transfer, it can take 2 to 6 weeks for the current provider to send the check to hit your particular account. If it is with Nicolay and it's part of the mass movement away from Nicolay over to Associated Bank, we will do something that's called a bulk transfer, and that will take place within after August 14th, within a week or two after that. So by the end of August, that should take place. So I want to thank you for your time. If you do have any questions, reach out to either the participant support team or HR, and either one of those resources will be able to assist you. Thank you very much for your time, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care.